Welcome to Storylines Live, the podcast where we explore the meaning and power of the most important story in business. The one that answers why someone should buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. This is the story that defines the very character and nature of an organization. At WordWrite, we call it your capital S story. In each episode, we feature guests who have great insights on business storytelling, who can share their experiences and key learnings to help you and your business do a better job of sharing your capital S story to deliver remarkable business results. Today, we're honored to have Connie Whitman of Changing the Sales Game as our guest. Changing the Sales Game solves a problem that most salespeople don't know they have, which is that most sales processes don't work because they teach transactional, money-driven solutions instead of deep, relationship-based, mutually profitable connections. At Changing the Sales Game, Connie and her team believe in a community and a win-win philosophy. Both the prospect and the client in a sales engagement need to win, or the sale probably should not have taken place in the first place. All sales efforts should come from a place of love, care, and respect. No sleazy sales approaches here. Now, Connie got her career and started at Chrysler Credit and found out by accident, which we'll talk about, I guess, that she was great at sales. And that's led to her career and her leadership today at Changing the Sales Game. Connie, welcome to Storylines Live.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and like hanging out with you guys.
Oh, thanks. I tried to hit the highlights there. Anything that I missed in my introduction to you?
It was really cute. The win-win. I call it because my kids played hockey. And
Yes.
So, through collegiate level. And so the win-win-win is the hat trick in hockey, right? The 3 goals, but it's
Yes.
the win for the individual salesperson. It's a win for the client, for sure, the potential client, and it's got to be a win for the organization as well. So for me, it's actually that container of 3 wins. Then everybody walks away super happy. That relationship can build and become really dynamic and fluid.
I love that. That's excellent. Love hockey too. We have a few hockey people on our team at WordWrite, so that's good stuff. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on, Connie, is because you're not only an expert in the topic we're discussing today, but you're also a podcaster.
Correct.
So tell our audience a little bit about your podcasts.
So I actually have 2, Paul. So 11 years ago, it's interesting. So how people perceive you is fascinating when you're on the receiving end, right? So I get this email from the owner of, at the time it was Web Talk Radio, and he has since passed, but he sent me an email saying, I think you have a really cool digital presence. I'd like to have a conversation with you. I call my husband. I think I'm getting punked. What digital presence? I don't even know what that means, right? So net, I pursued this conversation with this gentleman, and I bit the bullet 11 years ago and started podcasting. I love podcasting because it's intimate with the listeners. And I don't mean intimate in a weird way, right? But there's this intimacy that people are hearing you through their ear. And if your message and your vibe and your energy resonates, they're going to continue to listen. And then we can together, right? You and I, you've been on my show, I'm being on your show. So together we can really create some good content that help people change whatever it is that they're going through. And then 3 years ago with COVID, I rebranded. And of course, I hired a coach like many. I had many blind spots. And he said to me, you rebrand, you need to do another show called Changing the Sales Game and really dig in about sales and leadership and coaching and all of those things. So I actually have 2 podcasts.
So Connie, we're going to share with the audience in our show notes links to both of those podcasts. But one of them's called Changing the Sales Game, and your original podcast is called
Enlightenment of change. So I'll quickly tell you the difference.
Yes,
Changing the
please.
sales game, they're both business. Changing the sales game, business. It's hardcore. We get in, we talk about how to make money, infrastructures, all of that. Enlightenment of change is business. Only professionals listen to it, but it's got a little bit of that essence of woo, right? The universe and how the universe delivers for us. What we put out, we get back, all those kinds of things as well. So it's a little more woo, more feel good than business, but they're both very business related.
Well, we like woo.
I like woo too.
Life without woo would be very boring, wouldn't
It
it?
would. It would.
Well, Connie, every guest who joins us on Storylines Live, we ask them to pick which of the four fundamental questions that the capitalist story answers to discuss. Those are, why would somebody buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you? You selected partner with you. Tell us about that.
And isn't that interesting, Paul? You and I, we worked on a project together, right? Our book, Ready, Connect,
Yes.
Grow, published in February of this year. We hit international bestseller. And I really handpicked the authors to work together because I believe in partnership. I believe in collaboration. I don't think we can do it alone. And I think it's dangerous if we think we can do it alone. There's just too many moving parts out there, and you have blind spots. We need people in our orbit. Whatever project you're working on or whatever your business is, you need people in your orbit that have a different perspective. So we shine light on those blind spots. So we save time and money as we move forward. So I think partnership for me is just really resonated. That last question just really resonated with me.
Yeah, as at our firm, as we define the concept of partnering, in business, it's very hard to think of any endeavor in business where you don't need the help of somebody else to get it done, right? And frequently, that's an external organization, and they need to know your story because they're in relationship with you. It's a matter of trust, right? And nothing explains why they should trust you better than the reason why you do what you do on a daily basis, right?
That's exactly right.
How does your own story, Connie, power what you do with changing the sales game? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, it goes back to when I started at Chrysler Credit, out of college, and these back then, right? You know the story, but it's worth repeating. Back then, leasing wasn't a thing. Everybody bought their cars, but leasing back then had real power for business owners because they can write off the entire car payment, not just the mileage, et cetera. So it was it was a very good write-off. So I kept getting these deals in, as the newbie running the lease department. I was educated in that realm, and I was getting deals in and reviewing and thinking, these are lease deals. Why are they putting them in a retail? It's a business owner, et cetera. So I would just pick up the phone, call the salesman and say, and I would go through we don't know how to do the calculation. We had calculators back then. There were no computers. I'm dating myself, Paul. So they had, yeah, I know. Right. So we pull out your calculator, and I taught them how to do the calculation. And then they said, oh, now we got to call the business owner back. And I said, well, say this. And again, very heart centered. That's that's my vibe. And I'm like, say this, say this, say this. Well, what ended up happening was kind of remarkable. They ended up making a ton of money. The business owners started referring their friends because now they can have this write-off, right? So let's share the news. And the dealerships themselves started making money. So a sales position came open at Chrysler Credit. They all call me. Well, they were all men. You're going to apply. You're going to apply. This was my response. Why would I apply? I don't know anything about sales. And they said, what do you think you've been doing? You've been teaching us. I go, but I've been educating you. We're making money. You're good at sales. And then I didn't get the job because I was a girl. That's another whole story for another day. And I left the company and I went and got my investment licenses, Series 7. And that was my new trajectory. But that instance where someone saw something in me, Paul, I didn't even know. But here's the thing. Fast forward 40 years, 4 decades doing sales, and now 20 years in business. It really is about love, care, and respect. Yes. And what I did for those dealers, it was love, care, and respect. And then when I did it as a financial advisor with my clients, it was love, care, and respect. And I know people hear the word love with sales and they think she's a kook. I'm not a kook. I'm telling you, 40 years, I am successful because of love, care, and respect for every person that's in front of me.
Let's dig into that just a little bit because, when I read your introduction, which came from your website, uh, you and I are on the same page here. A lot of what's taught in traditional sales training, they'll always be closing, knuckles first sort of approach to forcing people to buy things they don't want or need is not the way that works. And you're describing it as love, care, and respect. What's at the heart of that? What are we trying to do in order to have success?
It's all about the relationship. And here's the funny thing, Paul, and I don't know if you're seeing this. Everybody's like, Scott, it can't be transactional anymore. It's got to be about the relationship. Then when you start peeling back what they're saying, it's rhetoric. They don't believe they're talking the talk. They're saying the right stuff, the right words, but they're not living and breathing it. And for me, it has always been about the relationship. And sometimes that meant, I followed up with clients for 5 years that turned into multi-million-dollar contracts over a 15-year, 20-year period that I've been working with them. It's about the relationship. It's personal. Now, somebody doesn't want to work with me. That's not personal. I'm not a good fit for them. But if I'm the right fit and I come in and I customize, that's the other piece of the puzzle too, Paul. I customize my solution for who's in front of me. I don't take, well, this is my program and this is how you have to do it. That's ridiculous. Everybody has their own secret sauce. My way of doing it, I have a structure, but you have to insert your secret sauce, your vibe, your level of love, care, and respect, and how you communicate that. But it's all about the relationship.
Mm-hmm. That is so wise, and I think one of the reasons why you and I connected early on and found that we had so much in common. From our perspective, the reason we focus on the story and the capital S story is in terms of building a relationship, the story of who you are and why you do what you do is essential to building that kind of a relationship, right? Because so frequently in business, it's an expectation that there's not going to be honesty and that there's not going to be transparency.
That's right.
People expect folks who are selling to them to lie to them. And as a sales expert, you know that a lot of folks who are in sales expect the prospect to lie to them. So how do we break that down and create that relationship? By explaining, by educating, by creating that relationship, right? And for us, that is where the capital S story comes in. We take a lot of our thinking from the work of Simon Sinek, and his books start with why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Because it's, as I'm sure you see with your clients every day, people have choices. They don't have usually only one choice of a solution or a product. There's competition. So why you? Why would somebody buy from you versus somebody else, right? Or sometimes the competition is to do nothing. Why should I work with you versus do nothing, right? And to me, that's a big part of where the story comes in.
Absolutely.
So before we take a break, what's your take on storytelling in general? Obviously, we have our take. We're talking about the capital S story, but the idea of storytelling, it made a connection with you, and that's how we got together and started doing things. What's your take on storytelling in business?
I think storytelling is important not only for people to understand who we are and why we do what we do, right? That's part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece, when you share a story with someone and you're trying to teach them, right? In my case, I try to teach sales. If I could share a story that they already understand, I can fast forward that education. So people aren't going to remember, I need to ask open-ended questions. What does that mean? When you start sharing stories about what that open-ended question can do, now people come and say, I've been using your open-ended question. They're not mine, they're theirs, right? But I've been using the open-ended question. And you're right, I'm having these great conversations with clients because I shared a story about what that open-ended question looked like from me using open-ended questions with a client. That's just one example. But when you share a story, it catapults the learning, it fast forwards everything because you just bring that person to the same page as you really, really quickly.
Yeah, this is just such a fascinating insight from you. I am just a total story geek, and this is not a new study, but I have to share this with you before we take a quick break. 1969, university research teaching children how to perform a task like tying their shoe. It was a little bit more complicated than that, but not much more complicated. a double-blind study. So there's two groups, a control group and a group that's being experimented on, if you will. So that group of children is told a story. This is how you do this. We're going to use this story and explain to you how to do it. The other group of kids gets 1, 2, 3. This is how you do things. 30 minutes later, 2 hours later, 2 days later, what do you think happened? The kids who got the story were much better able to repeat this task they were taught. It's the same in sales, right?
Absolutely. And real quick before we go to break, when I do a workshop, I talk about the three little pigs in sales, and everybody laughs. It's fun. It's funny. Everybody knows the three little pigs. When I get to in 5 minutes, I get to the end and people are like, oh, that makes so much sense, because they all understand the three little pigs.
Well, when we come back, you're going to tell that story, please.
You got it.
Folks, we'll be right back after this message. All right, folks, thanks again for being with us here for Storylines Live. We're back with Connie Whitman from Changing the Sales Game. Connie, please share with us this Three Little Pigs story that you teased us with before the break.
I love it. It was a good way to end at the break, Paul, right? We didn't plan this. We did not plan this.
No,
that was really, really organic. So here's the thing. The three little pigs, everybody knows the story. So the wolf in the story are the icky salespeople, always be closing, never take no for an answer. And they huff and puff and they blow the houses down. But there's two little pigs that we are not aware of. One is the first cousin's once removed, making this up. And that cousin had a railroad. He was watching what the wolf was doing to our three little pigs as they ran for their lives. And they went to the cousin and who lived in a railroad car and thought they can't bust into this. Well, of course, then the wolf gets the cannonball. What do you call it? The ball on the string.
Right. Catapult. Yeah.
And breaks in, and now the four little pigs go running. And the one pig who was a cousin, again, a distant cousin, was an architect. And what he did is he built a pig sanctuary, a little castle with a moat around. And when you do sales correctly, the drawbridge comes down. The people inside, in this case, our four or five little pigs, open the door, welcome you in to have a conversation, while the wolf is still on the other side of the moat, not able to get in. But see that story of the three little pigs, you picture them running, and now you're picturing this pig sanctuary where the wolf can't get in, but the people like us who are truly authentic and real, love, care, and respect, were welcome in, not only into their castle, but also to stay for dinner and build those relationships. It's an opportunity, and the little pigs allow us to do that.
I love that picture, Connie, because baked into the story, what you're saying is that if you do sales the right way, your competitors who are selling the wrong way are going to be on the wrong side of the moat. They're not going to get in. And as you mentioned earlier, this is what people want. They want long-term relationships, that win-win-win that you talked about. What a great picture. I love that. That's awesome. So how do you best help the people in businesses you serve?
And I think it's the customization piece that differentiates me. And to give you an example, I have a client and we're doing hybrid. I did some live, and then to keep costs down, right, and less wear and tear on me physically, because it was quite a distance for travel, we did a hybrid. And when I start doing my signature class with them, my 7-week program, and they had to come up with their real questions, and then I edit them. So it's still their voice. It can't be my voice, because you can't sell like me. I can't sell like you, but I can help them structure it so the flow is better. I can structure it so the questions are better and more open-ended, that they're going to get a lot more conversation, et cetera, et cetera. Their value statement, I would edit their value statement, get it down to 17 words. So if we have a Zoom networking event, in the chat, I could put my 17 words that inspire people to want to connect with me versus, and you've been on these networking
Yes.
where the chat, they go, oh, put your information in the chat, and people vomit information.
They
No
do.
one's reading it. No one is
Nope.
reading it. So why are you doing it? It's crazy. Have a 17 word one, and with your Linktree link, so they know how to find you and additional information. Now you're talking, and people want to work with you because you're organized, you're clear. Clarity creates movement, which creates decisions. So we need clarity in these conversations.
Wow. What you just said, priceless. Clarity creates
Movement. Clarity creates decision
movement,
making.
and movement creates decisions.
Decisions.
That's great. So your core program is a 7-week program, typically. Is that right?
Depending if the company, like this organization, they use predictive index. So I talk from predictive index. If people don't have anything, I have my own communication style assessment that I work from. So that becomes an extra week. And then sometimes people want to do some presentation at the end. So anywhere from 7 to 9 weeks. Again, it depends on the client and what their needs are. I don't go, oh, no, you got to get all 9 weeks. That's not necessary. If they're paying for other resources, let's leverage that. I hate throwing money away. Time and money are such an important commodity for us, small business owners, but for big organizations as well. Their budgets are real. So let's save time, let's save money wherever we can.
Oh, that's awesome. So, I mean, what in your role today gives you the most satisfaction?
I love working with the employees and just seeing the light bulbs go off and them coming to me saying, I don't think I could do this. I don't have the best luck. I get tongue tied. I do a lot of hamada. I have tick words, whatever it is that they're all consumed with. And then after the 7 weeks, they're like, wait a minute, it's this easy. And I say, it's this easy. And they go, oh, and you know why, Paul? I help them find their voice, their vibe, their level of love, care, and respect, what that means, what direction they come from. The solution has to be customized for the client, but it also has to be customized for the salesperson. I can't talk like you. You can't talk like me. I don't want to talk like you. You shouldn't want to talk like me. I can build the infrastructure for you, but now it has to be the essence of you that comes through. And when people see that, they go, no way. No one has ever taught me this.
So really, it's a matter of giving people the tools to unlock their own way of selling, if you will, not their own way necessarily, but their own unique value.
Yeah.
The process that you're training them on.
Yeah. Everybody has a superpower. I just help them identify it and then amplify it.
So that our audience can get a sense of what your work looks like. Can you share a client success story? And certainly if you can't use names, that's fine, but just to give people an idea of what it looks like.
It's interesting. One of my banks, I deal mostly with banks and credit unions just because of my financial background. And one bank, I followed up with them, and this is important too. Hear this: follow up is very important.
Yes.
Well, I followed up with them for 5 years. I was too small, whatever the reasons were, they didn't hire me. And then finally, they realized I was the right vendor for them, and that was the one I alluded to before. I worked with them for 15 years, Paul, and we took them from having zero culture. And when I say culture, it's a sales culture. For me, it's really the client journey culture that I help them build, because we have to get the back office, the front office. Everybody has to be working in sync to truly impact that client journey, right? It's always about the client. So fast forward, after 15 years, in 2018, they were ranked the #1 bank in New Jersey by Forbes magazine, and they were ranked top 50 banks across the country. And there's about 8,000 banks, community banks, big banks across the US. And they were ranked top 50 for 3 years in a row by Money Magazine. So I'm not a jerk where I think I have this big ego that it was all about me that they achieved that. But every recommendation, the other vendors they brought in, they always brought me back in. I was the consultant as well as the person who trains and helped build that culture. So it was my voice. I was the only one who did any of the training, and it made an impact. And we were able to move that needle. It was a pretty big organization. We moved that needle. They were #1 bank in New Jersey. It's pretty big. That's pretty impressive. And again, not only my efforts, but they heeded my advice. They heeded my recommendations. They put the CRM systems, they put the infrastructure in place behind the scenes, and magic starts happening.
That is really amazing. That's a great story. We can't do this episode without taking a few minutes to talk about Ready, Connect, Grow, which is the
Yes.
book that you and I were both part of. Now, I was a part of it, and it was a bestseller on Amazon, as you mentioned, but you made that thing happen.
Thank you.
You pulled together the team. So give our audience a sense of what the book is about.
So Ready Connect Grows, just like it says, I have lived my entire career, again, the 4 decades. It's about the people we know and trust that can help elevate. And the premise of the book was Roosevelt's quote that the ships rise with the tide. And I
Mhm.
believe that in my heart, that it goes back to what we said at the onset of the show. We can't do it alone, but
Mhm.
together we could create magic. And the other thing, Paul, you've been on my podcast. I try to promote anyone I can that I think has value. I vet people out. So
Mhm.
because I'm a Jersey girl, I say to people whenever my clients, I say, before you hire someone, please check with me. I have a robust international network now because of COVID and Zoom and everything.
Yes.
But I vet people out. I've used them. I know that their price point is fair and they'll deliver on the back end. So if you need, I got a guy. See, that's the Jersey in me. I got a guy. But it's really true, because together we really can create magic. And here's the thing, Paul, if I refer you or you refer me, there's
Yeah,
an element of trust walking in before
absolutely.
you open your mouth or I open my mouth, because
Yes.
you vetted me out. I vetted you out. So we have to leverage our network together.
Mhm.
And that's what the book's about. Ready, connect, and then grow.
Available on Amazon
Available on Amazon.
in pretty much all formats. Is there an audiobook format?
We didn't do the audiobook.
Not yet,
It's
but
down the road I probably will, but right now it's the Kindle on your iPad, like I have it on
yes,
my iPad, and then
yes,
of course the hard copy as well.
yes, absolutely. That's a great way to consume it. I love the book, not just my chapter, of course, but everything that's in there. It's really great. Connie, before I let you go, is there anything that you wanted to talk about today that we haven't touched on yet?
The only other thing I would add, Paul, is at the core, I think of business. And when I say that, you could work for a corporation, you could have your own business, doesn't matter. In the business world, at the core, we have to learn to communicate more effectively.
Yes,
Humans have a 6-second attention span, which is
yes,
horrendous. So here's my last tip. When you're in a potential client or with a client, I want you to start paying attention to whose voice you hear. There's a 70-30 rule for me. You should be listening, you, the salesperson, right, or the
yes.
business owner, when you're interviewing or speaking with a potential client or a client, you should be listening 70% of the time. Because if you're doing all the talking, you're not understanding right here, right now, what they really need from you. And you're not going to make the sale, or you'll make a partial sale where you could probably have made a bigger sale. Again, and when I say that, you win, but the client has to win. So yeah, communication at the core, I think we have to get better as humans. We're really, really getting worse with all the social media noise out there. It's dangerous.
Yeah, it really is. That is great wisdom, Connie. That is a key takeaway for me, as is your point that clarity creates movement and
Yeah.
movement creates decisions. And
Right.
I am not going to forget the 5 little pigs inside the castle on the moat, and that big bad wolf stuck on the wrong side of the moat, unable to get inside that relationship that they've built because they focused on the right things in developing their sales game. Connie, how can members of our audience reach you? What's the
If
best?
you, yeah, changingthesalesgame.com, everything's there. My free communication style assessment. If they want to contact me, there's a contact form there. Or they can email me at Connie@changingthesalesgame.com. Again, I answer my emails personally. I do not hire people to do that. It's personal, but business is
Yeah,
personal for me, Paul.
sure
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
Absolutely is. Folks, we'll also have that in the show notes, so you can look for all that contact information there. Once again, Connie, I want to thank you so much for returning the favor and being on Storylines Live. It's been
Thank
great to have you today, and I hope we can have you on again in the future.
Thanks, Paul. I love you so much, and I love what you're doing. And it's important. We have to approach things from love, care, and respect. So thanks for having me on. Truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.